Tonight, somewhere near you, it's going to rain on dry ground. And you already know that smell. Nobody taught it to you. Nobody had to. You walk outside, breathe in, and something in you says, good. So here's what I want to tell you tonight. That smell is a message, and it was never addressed to you. You're listening to Lost Signals. And tonight's transmission comes out of the ground. Start somewhere ordinary. Your kitchen tap. Every summer, water utilities get the same phone calls. The water tastes like dirt, like a pond, like a cellar. And every summer they answer with the same letter. The water is safe, nothing is wrong, and no, you are not imagining it. Because you're not. You are tasting a single molecule, the same one you smell after rain, and your mouth found it before the laboratory did. The molecule has a name. Geosmin. Earth smell. Literally. That's what the two chemists who isolated it in 1965 decided to call it. And here's the number that matters. You can detect it at somewhere between 5 and 15 parts per trillion. Trillion. That's a teaspoon of it dropped into 200 Olympic swimming pools. And you'd still turn your head. For most of the last century, your nose was a better instrument than the instruments. The machines only caught up recently. So, what are you smelling? Not the rain. Rain has no smell. Not the soil either. You're smelling something alive. A bacterium called Streptomyces. It lives in the ground under your feet, in numbers you don't want to think about while you're eating. And it doesn't make that smell all the time. It makes it at one specific moment, when the food runs out and the colony starts turning itself into spores. The smell of rain is the smell of something preparing to leave, and the ones being called are about the size of a grain of salt. They're called springtails. 6 legs, no wings, no eyes worth mentioning, and a spring folded under the belly that throws them into the air when something goes wrong. In 2020, a team published the experiment in Nature Microbiology. They put the smell in front of the animal and watched. The springtails came, at 1 nanogram. Then they wired an electrode to the antenna and watched it fire. Then they did the thing that turns a story into evidence. They took a mutant strain, same bacterium, no Geosmin. Nobody came. So it's a trade. The bacterium spends energy on a smell. The springtail walks in and eats it, and leaves carrying spores, stuck to its body, and inside it, to be dropped somewhere else. Dinner in exchange for a ride. That's the whole contract. Which leaves us with a question I'd like you to hold on to for the rest of tonight. If the message is for something that lives in the dark and has no eyes, and you can hear it from across a field, then what exactly are you? Now. Same molecule, different animal. A fruit fly has a channel in its brain that does nothing else. One receptor, one wire, one destination. And it responds to this smell and almost nothing else in the world. But for the fly, the message reads backwards. Not dinner, poison. Don't land. Don't lay eggs here. And in 2012, the researchers proved it the same brutal way. They offered flies a dish with the Geosmin making bacterium. The flies refused to lay. They offered the mutant that can't make the smell. The flies laid. And the larvae died. There's still a mechanical problem here. The molecule is heavy. It sits in the soil. And your nose is 5.5 feet up. High-speed cameras answered that one in 2015. Watch a single drop hit dry, porous ground. It flattens. It traps a bubble of air underneath itself. The bubble climbs up through the water and bursts, and throws a fine spray upward. Not too fast, not too slow, not soaking wet, not bone dry. Light rain on thirsty ground is the perfect launcher, which is why the smell is strongest after a drought, and why you smell it before the rain reaches you. One correction, because I'd rather you hear it from me. The word people use for this, Petrichor, isn't this molecule. 2 Australian researchers coined it in 1964, from the Greek, stone, and the blood of the gods. It's the whole bouquet, plant oils that dry into rock and get released by water, ozone from the lightning, wet asphalt, and geosmin underneath all of it. Petrichor is the chord. Geosmin is the one note in it that something is actually singing on purpose. So, back to you. The accident. The one who wasn't invited. In 2024, a laboratory in Germany went looking for the part of you that picks this up. They tested 616 human smell receptors against it. One answered. Exactly one. And it's an old one. The same receptor family shows up far outside our branch of the tree. You don't have a vague sensitivity to wet dirt. You have a dedicated receiver, tuned to one frequency, and it has been in your family for a very long time. And once we followed the smell on purpose. In 1943, at a farm laboratory in New Jersey, a graduate student was working through soil samples in a basement, looking for something in the ground that kills. What he pulled out of a chicken's throat swab and a handful of dirt was streptomycin, the first drug that worked against tuberculosis. It came from the same genus, Streptomyces, the thing that makes the smell of rain. Roughly 2/3 of the antibiotics in clinical use trace back to that family of soil bacteria. The advertisement wasn't for us, but we opened it anyway. So here's where we've got to. Something under your feet runs out of food. It decides to leave. On its way out, it puts out a call for a blind animal the size of a grain of salt. A drop of water knocks that call into the air, and it reaches you, not because you matter to it. You are the neighbor who can hear the phone ringing through the wall. It's going to rain tonight. You'll step outside, and you'll take that breath. You always do. Just know what you're answering, and that under your shoes, something is already packing. This has been Lost Signals. Keep listening. The transmission ends.